All right, today we're welcoming on JT Thompson. Thanks for joining us, JT.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me, Matt and Brian.
What does JT even stand for? I don't know.
Well, that's funny you ask. It's Joshua Thompson, so it's first and last.
Okay.
And then you kind of have the Thompson just so people can identify you. My initials are JBT, but I decided early on I wanted to be first and last, so that's kind of
I
where I
kind of
get
like
it.
that. I'm gonna start calling you just JTT just to get at you.
Hey, you won't hurt my feelings. So I kind of agree with you, honestly.
So JT is actually a co-owner with us on the Platinum Ghost. We claimed him a little less than a month ago up at Ellis. JT and I probably met 2 or 3 months ago. He's in a very similar situation as Brian and I, kind of starting his own thing within horse racing. I guess to start, JT, I know you went to UK, right?
Yes, sir. Went to UK, graduated in 2022. So I've done work in the industry alongside that. So just trying to get experience in the barns and figure out what I want to do in the industry. So it's been a long process, but it's been fun and I enjoy what I do for sure.
And I guess when you originally went to a UK, did you have it predetermined in your mind that you were going to try to pave a path within horse racing, or at what point, what age did you kind of realize that hey, this is something that I kind of want to do as a career?
Yeah, I got into horse racing just right before freshman year. So I kind of getting out senior year of high school, and so I just kind of went broad and went through communications degree and figured I'd just get experience along the way and see where it took me. And I just kind of felt like if I could meet people and get my name out there a little bit and get some experience, then one thing might lead to another. So I didn't actively pursue anything at UK involving equine.
Yeah, I guess you said it right before freshman year. Was there a particular like moment, like in time, was there a certain day that you could think back to that kind of really you kind of caught the bug?
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I feel like it's a pretty cliche story, probably similar to you guys. I was going to Keeneland just betting, and I figured out how to make an exacta and trifecta. Well, I caught me a nice exacta, spent a couple bucks, paid a couple hundred. I was like, okay, this is actually kind of cool. Uh, and once I got through, the scary part of reading a program, I really started to pay more attention and follow trainers and jockeys and owners that were making some noise and so that's kind of what got me going and then just kept building my interest and that's kind of where we just went and one thing keeps going.
Oh yeah, and that's one thing that gets my goat a little bit too. It's kind of the entry point within horse racing is kind of difficult. Like the program is super daunting. Like I know every Derby day, I'm like just giving crash courses to everybody, and there's different tools like Equinedge and things that have made it a little bit easier. But I guess like that's something that I guess everyone sort of struggles with. And I don't know if there's an easier way to get people into it, like other than like your typical. I don't think the form is ever going to go away. I think it gets optimized. Things get added, like the pace figures from time form are added somewhat recently, but it's always a difficult part when you first start off. Is like, okay, what do all these numbers mean?
Exactly. It's pretty intimidating to look at your first few times, especially. That's why it's good that you can kind of use some of the stuff that you use on your handicapping tools to shed light on things, and people end up making their own decisions. But there are a lot of products out there, and it's just kind of figure out what suits you best for sure.
All right, so went to Keeneland, cashed out some bets. We're feeling pretty good about yourself. You obviously
Hmm.
went to UK, so you were around it, in the horse capital of the world, as they call it. Um, and obviously, I kind of know like you started Peakview, but kind of take me back to like, okay, through college, how hands on did you get then, or kind of at what point? Take me kind of back to between graduating UK slash while you're at UK to kind of where you're at now.
Yeah. So freshman year. I was the guy, trying to keep up and figure out the new ways of trying to adult a little bit. And which really I was just taking care of my, little errands I had to do, laundry and classes. But I was able to work at the track at Keeneland for a trainer that kind of had a 20 horse stable named Phil Sims on the backside of Keeneland. He still trains out of there. And he was in the barn every day, and he helped me a lot, just get the basics, hot walking, grooming a little bit. And I did a couple meets with him where, you work in the barn all morning, you go home real quick, have you some lunch, put on a suit, and then go to Keeneland. And whenever we had horses in and got to do the full day, and it just, there was nothing really like it. And I knew that racing was my passion for sure. So that was early college there. And he connected me with a farm manager in Georgetown at Summerwind. So that was about the time that Flightline was a yearling there. So I got to do some yearling prep and work with the mares and foals there. And they taught me a lot there and gave me some farm experience and some racetrack experience. So it built a good foundation for the first half of college, probably.
Got it. And then you said you graduate in 22. I guess
Yes. And
at what point did you start Peakview? And then kind of what was the spark to start Peakview?
so I ended up going from those two gigs to working for a vet, and he was a repro vet, and we were dealing with mares and foals all the time, and I could kind of figure out some of these people that were pin hooking foals, and knew that I had some friends that might like to do that. So I just put out some fillers, and we raised a little bit of money to be able to pin hook. And so I was like, okay, well, let's name it something and make it official if we're going to do it. So we started Peakview in 2022, about the same time, finishing up with school. And we went to the November sale and bought our first foal by Cloud Computing, which is, it hasn't aged well. He's kind of dead in the water now, and in Pennsylvania, I believe. Uh, but we did it. We bought a horse for 20,000. We sold it for 30,000, and it was just a great learning experience. I never done anything like that, but I had the connections to get it done, and so it was cool. And I learned a lot about business. Met some cool people, and it was a trial and error kind of thing. And since then, we've just kind of built it up a little bit more year by year, but we're still getting going.
For sure. And I guess kind of like what are like the short and like I guess the question I always like to ask is kind of like what's the first you're most looking forward to for Peakview?
You know, I have a lot of fun at the sales too. My recent experience has been with Mike Ryan, Bloodstock. He's a big agent in the game, and he's just been someone that can kind of show me how the sales work. And if I can keep getting some info like that, I'm most excited to get Peakview going and just buying horses and having more action to get going and build a brand for sure.
So like for the brand, do you see yourself more as like you want to be on the pinhooking side, the racing side? I guess like we probably should explain what a pinhook is. Do you wanna explain what a pinhook is to the
Yeah,
novel?
yes, for sure. I should have did that before.
Oh, good.
Yeah. What we've been doing is we've been buying weanlings. So anything from 8 months old on, but they're babies, and so we're buying foals and trying to flip them before they run at the yearling sales, whether it's at Keeneland or Fasig Tipton in Lexington. There's angles to sell them as yearlings in New York. So we're basically going and trying to find potential, whether it's a poorly prepped horse or something we think can, get to be a better physical as a yearling before he runs and just attract size. So that's one way we pin hook, and then the other is yearling to 2 year old and going through the breaking process. But we're more centered on the weanling to yearling, just because we can reduce our risk and try to give ourselves as good of a shot as we got. But the sales would be probably a big part of what we're trying to do, just to kind of get started and get going. Obviously, racing fuels it all, but if we're involved with some horses at whatever capacity it is, if we're buying and selling them, then as far as they're graduates and moving on, doing good things, trying to keep improving and buying more horses and better quality horses. Um, that's kind of what I'm trying to get accomplished in the next couple of years for sure. On top of having little small ventures on the side with claiming groups like what we got going on now. Just anything you can have some action. The people you get into the game, you got to incentivize them somehow. And if you have a weanling that you're buying and trying to flip, like it's not always the most action packed deal. So
For sure. And I
Where
guess like
did the name Peakview from?
yeah, a lot of the guys I kind of got in with to start, we kind of grew up going to Utah, and we hiked and biked and snowboarded and all that, and I just fell in love with it out there. And whenever I was coming up with names, I just kind of related it to that in some way. So I just kind of got the name there and tried to make a brand with it. So
got it. Or like the blue, gray, and white colors. Is that kind of indicative of like the snow in the winter? Or kind of what's behind that?
yeah, a little bit. And I'm a UK fan, so I mean,
Yeah.
I try to. That's my favorite color. So you dream about making some silks and having a little something like that. So that's where we're at. It's all up in there. You never know. Like I'm interested to doing different things in the industry, and I just love it. So keep progressing.
Yeah. No, and I admire like the way you're kind of going about it, kind of trying a bunch of different things, like put your neck out there, getting your hands on horses a bunch. I guess kind of take me through your experiences with horses themselves. I know you did a little bit of traveling, so a longer stint over in Europe and such. So kind of detail like your own experience within horsemanship.
Yeah, hands on wise, working as a hot walker, that was the basic part of it. Just getting hands on horses and just figuring out the different dynamics, even to having a shank in your hand and how to get a horse out of its stall and just the feel for it and walking in the right place of the horse. So started from there, and uh, being around the horses in a training yard, you get to saddle them up and leg up riders and do that kind of thing. So I have experience doing that, and recently I've been I was in Ireland from February, March, and April, and got hands-on experience in another training yard. So it was pre-training. So before any of these horses ran, they bought them all as 1 year olds and brought them to this farm in Cork, Ireland. And we had about 60 head of horses. And I lived in a 2-bedroom apartment connected to the 60 horses. And we woke up every morning and went through the breaking process from before the time you have a saddle on their back to getting a rider on their back to, breezing them and prepping them for their sale day and before they run an actual race. So hands-on experience that kind of has to do with the same kind of concepts, walking, saddling horses, cleaning stalls, whatever it takes. Everybody works hard in an operation like that to get these horses looking their best and feeling their best to run their fastest. So I did that for 3 months in Ireland, and the sales circuit there for the 2-year-old sales where they breeze and sell at auction. There are 3 of those sales in England, so I went to Northern England and Central England, kind of by London and Newmarket and Doncaster. Did the breeze ups there. It's a different kind of sale that we're used to back here in Kentucky. We don't have any sales like that. We just have really just Ocala for the 2-year-old sales. So it was good experience and meeting people over there, learning pedigrees over there, different stallions, courses, all that kind of stuff really sparked my interest. So I'm kind of actively pursuing some stuff with that and retaining my connections over there through partnerships as well with training horses in training about to run.
For sure. That's one of the fun parts about horse racing. It's like truly an international sport. It's used in Australia,
Hmm.
Ireland, England, Saudi, the whole nine yards. I guess, what's your ultimate vision for Peakview? Is it like, if you were to kind of look back, it's like 5 years from now, and what would be some of the accomplishments that you've reached, and what do you think you'd still be reaching for in 5 years?
Yeah, I think one of the main goals is I want to win a race at Keeneland. I want to sell a horse that we bought at Keeneland September at the big yearling sale, and those are some of the things that I think are attainable in the next couple of years. Reaching for sooner rather than later, but within 5 years, I would like to have multiple horses in training that we have a partnership with, and then a little syndicate that we can do some bloodstock stuff as well, whether it's owning some mares and foals and breeding some to sell and breeding some to race, and having a homebred winner. In the next 5 years, having a homebred winner seems something that would be a great accomplishment, and to get on the right track for sure.
For sure. And I guess, like, what sort of people are you targeting to join those syndicates, whether it's racing, breeding, bloodstock?
I People know me as just like one of their horse buddies, and so I kind of just I gauge it out with people. If they have some interest, then I talk to college buddies that might be involved in something like racing or something like the sales. I leave it up to them and let them know some of the things that we can offer and do, and different risk tolerance, but also what would make them have fun. And so that's I'll leave it open to them, and so it can be. I have anywhere from college buddies to my accountant to um, my pediatrician to a pastor at a church to whatever it takes, and that's one of the hangups now is like a lot of these guys that do these big partnerships. If you look at and kind of compare, like the bigger partnerships have such a higher entry fee on racing partnerships until my racehorse, which gave a new kind of way to look at things and involve more people in a good way to hopefully grow our sport that we have to that is our job coming up in the future for sure.
What's it look like if like someone wanted to get a part of Peakview? Like, what's
Well,
that take?
um, I mean, we'll be raising money starting up in the next few weeks for our next pin hooks. So we'll start shopping in November and December. Um, I have Instagram and Facebook, um, and people kind of get a hold of me through there, just engaging, whether it's my personal account too. You can email me at JT at peakviewtv.com, and I talk to people on there all the time, just kind of filling it out and seeing what we can make happen, whether it is a pin hook this upcoming November, um, or if they're interested in jumping in on a claiming horse. We're just open to kind of whatever people are interested into.
Yeah, and I guess to go back to what you were saying about like my racehorse and growing the sport, um, if you were Mike Rapoli, if you were commissioner for a day, what's the first thing that you're doing? You have a magic wand, you can give me like a pie in the sky thing, and then he's Mike's kind of laser focused on aftercare, which seems like lower hanging fruit. Um, so I guess, like, give me like your magic wand, your commissioner. I want to do this, and give me something that's probably a little bit more like, okay, baby steps.
Yeah, baby steps. There's plenty that could be done for sure, and I'm sure you guys have fun on Twitter seeing everyone else's opinions. With the engagement some of that stuff has is interesting to read and entertaining to say the least. But I'd say the people, how we all start, we're all gamblers first. So if we can kind of take care of the gamblers to make sure they feel more important, but they drive the sport with their handle. So if we can figure out ways to lower takeout or make their experience better at the track, I mean, there's got to be something that we can do with the gambler that will keep driving people dumping money into the pools to help the economy overall. And if we have a better that is enjoying the game and involving more people at the same time, I don't see how that's a bad thing. And that'd probably be where I'd try to start, is working with the tracks to see how you can incentivize them to lower their takeout, what they're taking out of these pools that they're paying back to the bettors. And you want to, whenever you hit you don't always hit. It's tough to bet the horses and handicap them the right way, and also bet it the right way. So you want to be rewarded when you do that, and that's the best way to bring people back.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point too, because you brought up like my racehorse, like ownership, and then also gambling. Like at the end of the day, there's a whole ecosystem around horse racing. Obviously, it's like centered around Kentucky, and there's smaller regional markets. New York's getting pretty large. California's a little bit struggling. Florida's a decent market. But at the end of the day, I would say like the two groups of people that are elective that kind of drive it all are the owners and are the gamblers. And I think anything, and I'm just glad you kind of brought that up as a first thing, because that's obviously how we got into the game. That's how many people get into the game that aren't born into it, is from the gambling side. And it really should be kind of a circle, like people get into gambling and then they get into ownership, and it should be, this circle that continues to grow, especially nowadays. For me, what it comes down to, I think like an easy thing to fix would be like kind of what we were saying before about like reading the form. A,
Mm-hmm.
like making it easier to read, and then B, making it widely accessible and not charging like $6 for formulator or $3 for this, $3 for that. Like I understand those companies have to make money too, but I don't understand why it's almost esoteric to figure out how to get the program and how to read it. Like the entry, like we were saying before at the beginning of this conversation, is just the barrier to entry is so high in horse racing. But once
Mm-hmm.
you get over it, it's such an accessible sport. Like guys like me and you, like we're not born into the sport. We weren't born into it, but like, at the end of the day, like you're at the sales rubbing shoulders with the guys that you see on Fox Sports, on NBC all the time. So to me, like I just don't. The thing that I struggle with most is, okay, gambling is accelerating right now with the sports gambling boom. How does
Yes.
how like, horse racing is going to get left? It's getting left behind right now. It's like, okay, how do we, like, I'm sure all our, but we have, if I have a million buddies that they're about
Mm-hmm.
to pick up their first college football parlay this Saturday. Okay, what could we do to get horse racing equal footing there?
Yeah. No, it's a great question. I mean, I think I think people still want to bet that college football game or that NFL game, that player prop. So I think the best way to do it, which I don't even have the first idea to get going in the right direction on it, but if you could add a horse to your parlay, I mean, whether it's fixed odds or not, you would hope for fixed odds, but I mean, if you could do something like that, then it'd be hard to say, but I would think people would be into that, and that involves handle, and people can interact at their pleasure. Like it's just one of those things. There's 30 minutes in between races, and you can bet all over the country, but a lot of times people focus on one track, and so they want to be keeping up with a game, and it's more interactive for them, and so that's kind of where I feel like we lose out on getting those bigger groups of people for sure.
Yeah,
I
I
know
think part of it.
uh,
Brian, you got it. Sorry.
kind of touched on this too, but adding like an in-game parlay or maybe the
Yeah,
first quarter mile, you try to pick the winner, and maybe you don't have that horse winning the race, but it's got to help odds too. If you could pick a long shot that's just fast out of the gate.
yeah, I would think so. Like something like that, and you open up the race at certain little portions, I mean, it would just be a rush. Like, I mean, it's like a live bet in the fourth quarter. Like it gets your juices flowing. First to 10, first to 20. You know that kind of that'd be a good way to start in involving people that want that a little bit more rush, a little bit more live. It's that's how the ways are trending that way with live betting and the engagement it has. So with horse racing, that also makes a lot of sense. I don't see how that wouldn't be a hit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, we talked that, and then horse over unders for their individual race line too is an idea we threw around. That would be kind of electric. You take a long shot, he doesn't have a shot at winning the race, but it's like having that 28-point spread in the fourth quarter of a meaningless football game.
Yeah, no, for sure. And so, if you look at some international books, for example, I've been on Bovada, say, and on Bovada for a big day like Travers weekend this weekend, they would say head to head, Sierra Leone or Torpedo Anna. And I mean, your odds might be a pick 'em -115, -115, something like that. But you know, something like that at the track, like how won't you see someone kind of get in on the action? They can still lose the race, but as long as they beat the horse that they're head to head with, you know, they still can win and they can still cash a ticket. And that seems like a good idea for someone around our age or younger, older. A lot of people would be into something like that too, you know. So we have to be willing to adapt and change with these things. They could really help. You know, the sports gambling legalization across the board. It can help because people are thinking about it. People are in the books, and course racing's going all the time while these games are going on. So
Yeah, it simplifies the bet too if you don't know what you're looking at. If you bring those odds down to a 50-50 head to head versus blindly looking at these programs, trying to pick one horse out of 12.
Yeah,
yeah,
it brings down the barrier to entry as well as like it allows for, which sounds like very participation trophy of me, but allows like more people to have success earlier, which allows you to kind of build those blocks. You know, like you're no longer hoping that 19-year-old at Keeneland hits an exact and gets the bug. You're now okay, like this guy is sitting in a college house, you know, like it's the Saturday night slate, like
yeah,
his buddies
yes,
cooking together a parlay, and okay, now all of a sudden we're throwing on some horse racing in there too. So like it lowers barrier to entry, allows more people to win, and like keeps it in front of people. And it's not like the tracks like aren't catering towards it now too. I mean, Kentucky's the epicenter for horse racing. Everything Kentucky does, I think, everyone kind of has to follow suit. That's where majority of the money in horse racing is centered at. And
hmm
like you go to Churchill now and you go to the second floor, there's literally like on a college football Saturday, you know, like the September meet. I have a vivid memory if I was literally watching, it was a sick, unreal time. I was like watching the Notre Dame Ohio State game and then
hmm
going out to the track to bet the races after. So it's like the windows are right next to each other. And I understand there's a lot of regulation involved in terms of like horsemen are worried that like their numbers will go down if like the numbers and the pools go down. But at the end of the day, like we have to stop thinking. I think us, not specifically. I think that hopefully we're in a spot eventually where we can influence these decisions more. But to me, it's like there's a very limited mindset of like, okay, there's this pie for horse racing bettors. What percentage am I getting? Okay, why don't we just try to build that pie instead of just all trying to grab like pieces of a shrinking dot?
yeah. No, that makes sense. Like you said, there are plenty of regulations, but there's enough overlap you see blatantly. Like, you know, you're watching a Notre Dame game and it is on, and people can, you know, make some wagers. It's just it is right there. So there's got to be a way that we can join forces and whether it's in jurisdictions or across the board. I mean, it would be a good starting point to try to involve more of that money for sure.
Yeah, Brian and I tried something. We were doing these like free contests where like we would just post like on Google Forms. We would like
Forms,
post
yeah.
these like over under like final time, like total wins on a card for IRA at this track. Like we tried to do it, but it's hard like as an unlike just on the side just trying to do that. I think it's a fun way to get people involved. Um, maybe this time we just start back up, Brian, because it was fun
Yeah, we
this year.
gotta probably formalize that. I think if we made a website that looked a little more official, and here's a Google Drive link
Yeah.
to the coaches,
For
but
sure.
I mean that goes back to if we grow the gambling pool, the tracks don't need to take that whatever 10% I think it is right now. They could shrink it back to 5, and if that doubles their income, they're still making more
Yeah, and it's like
overall.
it's a percentage of the bet, Brian. So like every pool is different. So like the
Mhm.
percentage of like a win bet versus show bet versus a pick
Yeah,
five or an exact, it's all different percentages. And like the people that's like the person that gambles every single weekend kind of almost has their job within horse racing, they understand that takeout rate like it's nothing. But even like the casual fan, takeout affects them because of what was it? Keeneland dropped their
Daily doubles.
yeah, their daily doubles, and it's marketing for the track too because it goes up. But like in a year, 2 years, when they're no like the pop from that buzz is no longer there. I think a short sighted executive goes, "Hey, we should increase this so we're getting a larger chunk of the pie." But they don't realize that when they increase that and they have you know I was bet when I was like 13 through my dad. So it's like, yeah, now all of a sudden, instead of getting back, I hit a $2 double, and I get instead of getting $16, I'm getting 32. It's not that drastic, but still, like those dollars add up quick. And I think the more you're giving back to people in terms of like winning when they do it, because it is hard, like we were saying, the greater comeback you're also going to get as well.
Yeah. So say like how Keeneland did it. Say they their usual takeout for the daily double pool is 18%. So if there's $1 million in that pool and they're taking 18% out off the top just for hosting the race, then that cuts into the profits big time already. So if Keeneland says, "Hey, look, we're going to take it down from 18 to 13," then that just markets its own self. Like that pool will go to 2 million because people feel like they can get these higher payouts, and so they're chasing at that point. And it's a great thing, and I think it was Jim Goodman at Keeneland that kind of came up with that. That's a good start. That's a good start to keep these gamblers interested. They want to play the daily doubles. They want to chase these bets that they feel like they can hit a bigger lick on for sure. That just it's a good idea and a good start.
100%. Any other like ideas, your commissioner, your attacking gambling? You said takeout. We talked about data. We talked about different kinds of bets. Anything else like on your mind? You think that could work?
Um, I mean, I've seen a lot of people that have a strong opinion about some of these claiming races, and if there were less of those, it could, maybe improve the quality, and you could condense the race meets and make them more special. And some of that does make sense, for sure. You're not constantly diluting your product with some of those races, but where are all the horses that sell for $1 million at the yearling sale that don't make a $100,000 allowance or a stake race? Like they have to go somewhere, and if we do condense our numbers of our whole population, then maybe those races could be minimized a bit more. So we uphold a good product, but I mean, for the short term, I don't think that's a fair argument. But as commissioner, I'd say the aftercare thing is a big deal too. Um, I think people should. The John Stewart guy. I mean, he's definitely all over the place. I think there are a lot of things that he's been doing that are good things, whether they're the right intentions or not. I don't know. It's not my position to judge, but his thing about doing 1% of purchase price at the sales to kind of go towards aftercare. I think that's very interesting too. I think that could improve the overall sport and give it a better look nationally too, and kind of shows people that we're putting our best foot forward too. We're not just going to spend all this money on these horses and not look after them if they don't do what we want them to. So
Yeah, I think the social license for horse racing is one that's constantly being tested right now, and I think it's in part due. I forget like which Taylor wrote about this. Obviously, the Taylor family is big in horse racing,
mm-hmm,
Brian, but they talked about the how ever since the car came around, which is like kind of crazy to go back history wise. Obviously, like the human horse connection is less and less as time passes by. So people don't really understand kind of the connection between horse and human. They only really see, horse and human for, the typical person that grows up in suburbs of New Jersey that never heard of Monmouth Park or any of that stuff. It's okay, they know the Derby and then maybe they know the Belmont, but that's about it. And when you
mm-hmm,
have like last year, like the rash of breakdowns around the Derby time, and like obviously the if it bleeds, it leads, which is very hard for me to say. Like the news nationally picks up on those stories. You had the rash of breakdowns in Santa Anita and all that stuff. So it's like the greater. I mean, like, the whole like light up racing thing it's pretty awesome. That initiative is one that I definitely want to continue to support myself because I do think people our age. It matters. Like that social license is under attack right now, constantly. I believe. I mean, like people want to say PETA is like these crazy wackos, and at the end of the day, like eventually, like what the national narrative, if we don't control it and we don't get it under control, we're gonna end up like greyhound racing. Greyhound racing obviously doesn't really exist in the states anymore. So that's
exactly.
obviously something that needs to be addressed as well. And aftercare is a great place to start with that.
And yeah, it's a great place to start. And whether you can pay it forward on the purchase price of something, it can be, a small portion like that adds up and goes a long way. And I think that is a good start. But regulating some of these races, like you said, the bad news is what makes the national news. So horse racing never has a category on the bottom of ESPN. And when Santa Anita had all the breakdowns, they're like, okay, we're going to make one, and we're going to show this every 6 minutes on the bottom of everyone's screen. So, it's a shame that bad negative news a lot of times gets more clicks, and that doesn't help our case at all. But if we do have some sort of a backbone as an industry, then we do have to have things like light up racing and people that are willing to be a voice for all the people involved in industry to be proud of and to be able to keep backing, with, like you said, your social license. Like, there's plenty of conversations I have with people, that have questions, and you answer them your best, and you try to be an advocate, but you're also real with yourself and them.
Yeah, 100%. I think honestly, you could take the NFL as a great example. Concussion came out. There was a lot of press about CTE and player safety and concussions, and they definitely have a lot of money and a lot of
Hmm.
unity behind the shield, as I call it. And they've obviously done a very good job of making player safety their priority, and not just making it their priority, but like also playing the PR game of making sure the public realizes that it's their priority. And the NFL, they've continued to innovate, and football has, in terms of like player safety, helmets getting better, all this stuff. And horse racing is doing the same. Like there's the stride safe stuff. There's all different kinds of innovations to make horse racing safer. Just like the NFL has made football safer for their players, we just have to do as good a job as them in terms of not just. It's kind of crazy that like walking the walk's not. You can't just walk the walk anymore in like the social media age. I feel like part of you has got to walk the walk, and then part of you also has to talk about your walk in order for it to really sink in. And I feel
Hmm.
like we're doing one side of that thing very well, and the other side not so much. And lineup racing, I think, is addressing that, which I think is good. But yeah, it's a fun problem to solve as well.
Yeah, like you said, the NFL, they've really tried to improve the safety of their players, and we have too here with HISA and things. And it's just it gets a little tricky with when you don't have a commissioner like Roger Goodell. Everybody gives him shit on draft day, but I mean, having someone that kind of has a hand over all these jurisdictions instead of every state saying, hey, we're going to do this or we're going to allow this. And I mean, Louisiana said they are going to relax some of their, substance rules, and they got a lot of backlash for it, and they decided to not go through with that 24, 48 hours later. So if we can keep being a voice and kind of make everyone be along the same lines as far as rules and regulations, then I mean that would be a good start for the health and safety acts with the horses too.
Agreed.
Yeah,
Brian, you got any questions? I feel like every time we talk, Brian, I'm trying to talk to you. We got to figure this out, dude.
It'll come. It'll come. But yeah, like one thing I encounter a lot when people ask about horse racing is just the general stigma that these horses are abused day in, day out, treated like prisoners. I feel like if there's a way to portray that differently and kind of
Yeah, I agree. If people knew the amount of work, time, effort, all of the above that the people that do work on the backside, work on the farms, like they want the best for the horse. It's like having a big puppy almost.
yeah,
It has, they all have their own personalities, and people embrace those. So and they work hard doing it. So explaining your scenarios and experience involved with horses definitely can help, and getting that word out. And there's a guy on Twitter, the real players of the
You gonna
backstretch.
bring that up?
Yeah, the guy's he's doing it, and he's getting a lot of engagement through it, and he's highlighting these people that do work in the barns that don't get the acknowledgement that are behind the scenes constantly, and they're up every day. They work 7 days a week, making sure these horses are in their best form so that they can perform on the track. And there really is a lot to it, and we know it more here in Kentucky because a lot of people know people that are involved with horses. But the farther you get from Kentucky, one, but also heavy horse communities, then less and less people understand, and they just see a horse getting whipped down the stretch and running as fast as it can around a dirt oval, and they're like concerned. And I understand, but if they really care, they'll hear people out and know that it's not what it seems.
yeah. I mean, part of it's just general education, I guess. Like if you look out at any of these like wildlife documentaries, they show the horses. They're all running, and there's horses in there that just enjoy the act of racing. So you're
Yeah,
not really making them do something that's not as unnatural as it may appear if you just show up to a track.
yeah. And so a lot of those horses, they're out, like whether it's yearlings, they're out, they're herd animals, so they're out there running together, and they enjoy that. And so when they go to the racetrack, they're on the track running with other horses there, and then on race day they're obviously in a field of them. So if you look at a horse in the paddock on race day, you can see the care, the time that is put into them, just in their coats and how well they look, and their nutrition, and they're on their best. Whereas you do see some of these, say a wild horse on National Geographic or something. It is a wild horse, but it's just they're well maintained and well looked after. And as long as we can keep talking the talk and walking the walk too, with that in aftercare, then that's when we can really show what we're doing and show the average person what it means to be involved.
Yeah, I guess going back to Matt's question before he rudely interrupted me. Sounds like you might have had a little better prep than our first Keeneland experience. How did you go dressed to your first race day at Keeneland?
Well, I've grown up 15 minutes from the track, so I was aware that I needed to wear a jacket and look nice. I don't think I wore a tie the first time, but I was fitted. I was prepared.
Okay, so you weren't in jeans and a polo guy.
Ryan's looking in the mirror right now pretty hard.
Hey man, and I totally understand that, especially if you're someone that enjoys to get dressed up and looking good, especially in a horse race. It's the best thing. But yeah, you do get to looking around, and you're like, okay, like
No,
all
I
the
didn't
girls
even
are
need
in.
to didn't even need to look around. Everyone made it blatantly clear that I wasn't even hitting one part of the dress code.
Yeah, and there really isn't, but definitely it's a known thing. If there's no real way to know it unless you've been or you've seen videos, and I guess you guys had a successful day though, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, turned out pretty well. Things happened. We were able to go into the shop and get properly dressed. So,
Yeah, but I saw. Speaking of, I saw the Thunder. He ran yesterday, I believe. He was heavily favored because he ran a hard race, ran second last out, put him back in a starter. I didn't get to watch the race; I just saw. But I mean, that horse should still be a hard knocking horse around that level for sure.
yeah, and I talked to Tom a little bit about that today. And part of it was just the conditions. He's not the biggest mud running horse. And he said one thing that I thought was interesting, the delay affects the horses massively too. He said they walk out, they get all hyped up and excited, and it's kind of like an MLB pitcher getting ready for first pitch, walking out there and finding out you got to wait around for 2 hours.
That's a great point, and all the horses in a race like that, they know exactly what's coming. They are schooled and they have the experience in running the actual races. So when they're in the paddock there, getting saddled and walking in circles, and they see all these other horses around them, they know what time it is, and to delay them, it almost does deflate them. And it is, like you said, MLB pitcher. You get jacked up to go, and someone's like, "Hey, I know you're ready and warmed up, but hold tight for 45 minutes. We're gonna have a little delay here. It's raining,
Yeah.
you know."
Tom said he talked to the jockey too. I forget who rode him, but even the jockey knew, like, by the time race time actually came around, that he just felt that all the energy was out. And he was just going through motions at that point.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm sure I'll have to go back and watch the replay once we get off here, but I'm sure he probably did what was right by the horse once he felt him not going the right way. He kind of just saved him a bit.
Yeah.
But
The only other really bigger question that I was interested in is if you saw a big difference between how farms stateside prep, take care, look after the horses versus what they might do over in England or Ireland.
I'd say, they care for their horses over there, for sure, but they might let them be a horse more. They might just kind of kick them out in a field and go feed them out in a field for extended periods of time and wait closer to sale day to start really working on them harder. Whereas here, a lot of these farms, they see these high prices that these horses are bringing. So, they're working on them pretty diligently early, which isn't always a bad thing. They're handling more every day. So they're all halter broke. So all these horses are walking on a rope shank from an early age, whereas in Ireland, most of the time they're just kind of kicked out and they're a little bit more, they're not halter broke as much, so they're a little more strong armed. But that was one takeaway, for sure. They kind of stay out of the horse's way a little bit more than we do stateside. But then again, there are a lot of comparisons. One of the main things that I picked up on, obviously, is they run all their races pretty much on the grass. They're starting to do more synthetic all weather, like at tracks like Kempton in England, and so that gives them another alternative of a turf course. But all these horses are made differently too. They're a little bit finer boned, and they're not muscular and big dirt American pedigree horses. So looking at the horses in total, you definitely pick up on a lot of things different physically, with the horses they breed and the ones we do as well.
Yeah, I mean that's all I got. But I guess piggybacking, kind of counteract or points we made earlier in America. I don't know what the price tags and horses over there, but when you have these multi-million-dollar horses, I think it was Matt. You could correct me. I probably will be wrong, but was it Flightline that was out in a pasture and ran into a fence and kind of fucked up his 3-year-old year?
Yeah, he like kind of he did just that and kind of cut open around his hip area, quite ugly looking too, and he still has a scar. But yeah, that's what delayed him from running in the classic races, the Derby and the Preakness, and the Belmont. So he came kind of late on the scene, and that's whenever he was kind of winning the Met Miles and things like that. But he cost $1 million, which in his rare scenario is a bargain. But a lot of times those $1 million yearlings don't work out like that. And a problem that he encountered with all that ability and all that smart intelligence in his head, and he still can get in a little accident like that and delay him. So that just goes to show a little bit of a glimpse of why it is so hard to kind of be on top of the industry and make things happen with all the different factors constantly working.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing that comes to my mind after what you said there is we view them as $10,000 claimers, $1 million yearlings. In their heads, they're all just horses. So that he doesn't think any differently than a small value claimer does when it's out there.
Yeah, for the most part, they all are horses, but you know, a lot of times a racehorse can come from anywhere. Don't get me wrong; like there are hot-headed horses, and there are classy, quiet horses that end up being good racehorse. So there's no real right answer for that. But I do know that all these horses are different and have different personalities, and you try to connect the dots and see if sometimes that does play a factor in how they perform, whether it's being easily trained from a field to being broke in to be able to have a rider on their back and perform on the big day. How much mental is that? Or are accidents always going to happen no matter what? It's you just never know. You don't have eyes on them all 24 hours of the day. You do as best you can.
Yeah, I mean, that's all I got, Matt. I don't know if you have
Yeah,
anything
I'm
else.
gonna do the rapid fire here. So I these are just kind of like quick one word, like one sentence answers, and we'll finish up with that.
Okay.
All right. Favorite track?
Favorite track? I'm a homer. I like Keeneland. It's my favorite, but Saratoga and Del Mar get honorable mention.
There. Favorite horse of all time?
Favorite horse of all time? Ooh, this is a tough one, but I'm going to give you an answer. Yoshida was a horse I watched break his maiden at Keeneland, and that turned me into a fan because I hit a bet on it. So I'd say Yoshida's one of my favorites.
They get a nice winner at Saratoga, one of those stakes on Saturday, I want to say.
Yeah, he did. I think it was the Lake Placid, I believe. I think, but yeah, no, he's he has a few runners out there, but probably not the most commercial stallion out there.
Just not right now. All right. Uh, so you have a horse saddled up in your blue and gray silks. It's walking out on the track. If all your horses had a walk up song, what would that song be?
I think X gonna give it to you,
That's
DMX.
a good one. That's a
I,
good one.
I mean, that one would get me jacked up, and I'd like to think that it'd get the horse jacked up. So X gonna give it to you, DMX. Let's go.
I like it. All right. So now a little bit less horse centric, but more serious. When you hear the word successful, who's the first person that pops in your mind?
Aaron Wellman. He does Eclipse Thoroughbred Partners. I think I've been able to talk to him a little bit. He's very good. He's on top of it all the time. He's watching races. He's making private deals. He's successful because he's winning the big races and letting everyone in on the experience. That's success.
Oh yeah. Is there a quote that you live by or think of often?
Ooh, I'd say just remember 5 years ago, you would have dreamed about where you are today. That was one that stuck out to me lately. 5 years ago, I was just getting going in the industry, and I didn't know what I could do with it. And now I feel like I have a better grasp, but I'm open to growing with the game and improving. And I don't know what the next step holds, but as long as I'm around the game to some extent, I think I'll be happy as long as my girlfriend supports that decision.
That's a good one. All right. Similar vein. Yeah, I know you're a young dude, but advice to your younger self. You probably already gave it there, but any other advice you'd give to young JT?
Man, it's all about who you know. It rings true in most things, but being able to know a guy that can help you, keep advancing, having a mentor. I mean, make sure that you seek those people and know the ones that have your best interests and a good working relationship that you can lean on when you have something come up. So having a mentor who it plays a big role in anything we do.
Got it. That's all I got. I guess any asks or requests, people listening, like any last parting words?
Man, I just want everyone to tune into the Travers card this weekend on Saturday at Saratoga. I believe it's the 24th of August. I mean, the card is so loaded. I'm so excited. I think this is a day to highlight, one of the biggest days of the year. And I mean it. I hope everyone tunes in and gets in on the action and gets their shot at a big ticket.
I guarantee you there will be a certain man named Brian and Matt at a wedding in Chattanooga, Tennessee that will be glued to their phone at a certain 30-minute interval.
Hey,
Greatly hiding behind an app.
I've had an iPhone in my lap at a scenario like that before, and so I respect it, I understand it, and I hope you guys hit Brian and Matt. Let's go. We're gonna cash one, and
My favorite story of that is Rombauer's Preakness. I'm at a wedding in a church as it goes off, and I'm watching it, and I had Rombauer at what was it, like 8:20 or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm just like quietly going like this in the church. It's like, oh, I'm really feeling this sermon.
Oh man, that's great. And I feel
that's where my head immediately. We're gonna have to check the timestamps on these races where we're gonna have to be this day.
Yeah,
Use the bathroom for it.
no doubt. Yeah, I mean, what I would do sometimes is I'd try to be as engaged as possible, but you best believe I have alarms and the bets were made early in the day.
The timer goes off. Like,
the timer goes off. Yeah,
I can see the situation right now. Anyone have any objections? Matt just hits a big parlay and goes, "Fuck yeah!"
Hey man, you're bringing the right energy. Whether it's cashing a ticket or being at the wedding, your vibes are going to be there for the best. So,
all right, JT, we appreciate you hopping on here.
Yes, sir, boys. Thanks for letting me be part of my first podcast. Yeah, coming in right up on an hour, so it's been fun. Thank you, guys.
Beautiful. All right.
All right, cheers, boys.